guys, welcome to Mente de Madre Leona. Thank you so much for joining me here on my podcast and on the blog. This blog's actually not up yet. I'm still working on it a little bit, but I wanted to just jump right into it. I want to talk a little bit about rest today, something us moms don't know a whole lot about. Um, so I had a little time to get some rest, and I was not wanted by any means, but quick story, I have been lifting a lot more weight at the gym, and of course what comes with that, a lot of back pain, and started taking a little too much a leave, and here came my friendly ulcer that I hadn't had in about 15 years. So that hurt, especially being a little bit older, and that was just not any fun. So I had some mandatory rest and no coffee for 5 days, and no wine. So pretty horrible. So kind of silly though. But anyways, in the meantime, I was down and I had just come off vacation, and I started having all of these worries and concerns, like, am I ever going to get it back to the gym? Am I going to lose all my gains that I had? And I'd just been on this wonderful vacation and trying to get life back on schedule, back on track, and this was the last thing that I needed, and all of that negativity kept creeping in, so I couldn't really rest the way I needed to, and that's hard. And I'm sure if you are a mom and a wife or a single mom, you absolutely know what that's like. There's no time to just step back and have peace and quiet and not always think, oh my, what does the baby need? Teenagers, what do they need? They're going to be hollering at me at any moment. But I feel like we as moms have to demand that we do get some of that rest time, because just like my muscles were really, really sore, they needed a break too. I was pushing myself way too hard, and I wanted to just jump ahead a little bit too fast, and I needed to allow those muscles time to rebuild and regrow before I pushed ahead and went back a little bit harder and stronger. And when you do allow your muscles to have a little bit of time, that's different for everybody how much they need, then you're able to come back stronger and go a little bit harder. And I believe that our minds are just the same way, that when you take that little bit of time out, sometimes it's 5 minutes just to clear your mind, you can come back with clarity and direction and energy that you just didn't have before. I think a lot of times exhaustion physically really comes from our mental state and just the overwhelming amount of things that we have to do as moms and as wives or as single moms. We just have so much to take care of, and we just don't compartmentalize like men do. So all of these things are constantly at the forefront of our mind as we got to do all of this stuff, and then tomorrow it's right back up again, and it's a lot. So, one of the things that I do, I love coffee, as I'm sure you know, is I'll tell my husband, I just need to go for a quick drive and go get a coffee. We even have a coffee shop on our property, but I'm going to go down into the town or up into the city and get me a coffee just so I can clear my mind. For me, driving without children screaming at me in the car clears my mind, gives me new energy, and I can come back, and all of the tasks that I have before me just don't seem overwhelming. I feel like I'm really empowered and I can tackle everything. For you, that may be something totally different. I know running for me also really, really helps. But if you've got small children, especially, finding those periods of time are exceptionally difficult, and you have got to lean on someone else if you've got that support to be able to get that little bit of time. And sometimes, I know when I was a single mom, that only came when the babies were in bed, and it just didn't come any other way. And that's so hard to do. But be strong and know that God made you so strong and you are able to triumph, and know that those babies do grow up so quickly, and before you know it, you'll be missing all of those times where they just needed you constantly, and they won't be there so little and just wanting those hugs and kisses anymore. But I think when we're really purposeful about slowing down and recharging, you can also put that energy and that time into thinking about what your passions are and where you want to go, even if it's 10 years down the road when your kids are at a different stage of their life, when maybe your husband's at a different stage of his career, where you can do some of the things that are what you want to do. And my mom was a single mom. I'll just tell this quick story. And she was always struggling to find the next best paying job. And so that meant that we moved constantly. I went to about 13 different schools growing up before college. And that was incredibly difficult, but that's a whole nother story. But she was always chasing that higher pay, and eventually that led to going back to college, and that was a wonderful experience for both her and I. But then continued the moving and always moving further away from family, further away from friends, until we actually moved to Oklahoma and knew no one here. That was crazy difficult, and my mom never had a chance to slow down and really think about what was she doing in her life, what was she chasing after, was it worth it? You know, she could never really take the time to say this is good or this is bad for me as a mom, and for me, her daughter. Was that okay? And for the entire family, was it okay? Was it good being so far away from everyone? And it was so difficult. I was up at 3 a.m. when she worked as a postal carrier in Syracuse, New York, and we would be out in the freezing cold snow so she could take me to a babysitter, drop me off, and then rush to work and wouldn't pick me up until it was dark again at night and rush me home just to get me to bed. It wasn't life. And most of my childhood was very much like that. Before care, school, after care, rushing home. Weekends, my mom was always working on her thesis for her master's degree and working on her doctorate. And today my mom is incredibly ill, I'm very sad to say, and she's been ill most of my life. And I think that stress and never having time to really rest and reassess her goals put so much pressure on her mind and her body. And physically, she never had the chance to rest either. And she has a very painful illness, and of course, not being able to ever rest and heal made it much worse. And then she had a very serious injury, and she was never able to rest immediately after, and it made it so much more difficult. And because we were so far away from family and friends, we didn't have that support system that we would have had if we were back home in New York. So I encourage you in your life to really step back and think about where you are going and what you're doing. Is it best for you? Where is it going to take you in 5 years, 10 years? Where is it taking your husband, or if you're a single mom, you maybe new up, and your kiddos? Where is it taking them? Kids are amazingly resilient, and I can't say enough about how amazing children are and how much they can take on. But really think about what you want to do in your life, and is it worth the struggles that you're making and having to deal with today? Because remember, you've got that one life, just this one life. So even if it's just 5 minutes a day, even if it's after the kiddos go to bed and you're exhausted, slow down and think about where you want to be. Where do your passions lie? Because when you ignite those passions in your heart, girl, there's an energy that you can't explain. And God will be behind you and open doors you can't imagine. I'm getting teary-eyed because I can promise you everything I've ever asked for, He has provided in His own time and in His own way, not mine. But He's always been there. And I don't talk a whole lot about religion on here, but I will say that about God being behind your dreams. And that may not mean that you get to step back from a really difficult job today, but at least maybe you can be planning how you can find something outside of that and move towards that. And God brings people into your life that you can never ever imagine that can help you. And so for me, in my story, when I grew up, I just never knew how to slow down and rest. All I knew was always to be rushed. I only ever knew stress and anxiety. And so as a single mom, that was really difficult too. I started to have a few little moments of clarity. One of my law professors started teaching Tai Chi, of all things, and I got to take a few of his classes, and I couldn't believe after that few moments of slowing down and doing these really smooth and quiet moves, how my mind was so re-energized and how I could accomplish so much more after. I was really, really impressed. I remarried, and my husband was able to provide so I could step back from my hectic job at a law firm and slow down in my life and really focus on learning about healing, about nutrition, about exercise. I was able to finally exercise in a purposeful way instead of just kind of like all over the place, no real direction with what I was doing. And so I got this time to slow down with my children and reassess what I wanted in my life. And fortunately, I was able to really make some major changes in my life and improve my health mentally and physically. And that has been such a huge blessing in my life. And I've been able to do so much more because I was able to have that little bit of time to slow down and read so many articles every day and really think about every little thing in my life. And life got very complicated and very, very busy shortly thereafter. But I was able to start putting all of the things that I had learned into play. And maybe for you, it's only 5 minutes a day that you can focus also on learning some of those pieces of information. You know, Instagram is amazing at workout routines, health routines. There's just such an abundance of information out there. It's just phenomenal today. You don't have to go sit in a college classroom and pay thousands of dollars to learn and put all of these things to work in your life. So I hope that you gained something from my story. Today, I have to still step back at times and say to myself, you know, it's not worth rushing the kids around to go do X, Y, and Z and stress them out and stress myself out. Let's just slow down. There are definitely times where you got to rush them around and find the missing shoe and get out the door. But there is definitely something to be said for slowing down and cutting back and putting some rest on your mind so that you can focus on what's really important to you and have that time to think about finding those passions in your life and being that example for your children and for your family to see how when you focus your energy on the things that are important to you, that you can move forward into really new and exciting directions. So I hope today that you can get a little bit of rest. I hope you can find that thing that gives you that little bit of time, even if it's just yoga with your baby. That was another one I always like to do. Thank you so much for joining me here today. I really hope that you'll give me some feedback, what works for you, and how did you grow up? Did you experience some of these same things in your life? And guys, just lots of love. Have a wonderful day.